Welcome back to the Daily News. With me now is Steve Gaito, our friend. He's a certified financial planner. He is also owner of Retirement Resource Management. So retirement, worries about retirement, and there's 4 components of that you want to share with us. The first one is that we'll perhaps run out of savings, right?
Yep, that's really, Forbes came up with the 4 top worries, and the first is you'll outlive your savings. The second is your investments won't keep up. That's
right.
With inflation going on right now, a lot of worries about that. Cost of medical care, that's a big one. And then the death of your spouse.
Right.
And so,
which you don't want to think about.
No, but it happens.
But it does.
And if you don't plan for that, it becomes a problem.
All right, so let's start with savings.
Yep. And people, by the time you hit retirement, you're basically playing the hand you were dealt.
Right.
And so it becomes very important to get the most out of it. And that's why I love planning instead of investment management. Is the planning allows you to take everything that someone has and really figure out how to get the most out of it.
So on savings, you keep hearing about an emergency fund.
Yep.
Should you always have some I say liquid cash, and I'm probably not even saying that right, like in a little savings account, even though you're not making a lot of money on that, just kind of like 10,000 or something like that over here in I don't know, should you have an emergency fund?
Yeah, you ought to have access to emergency funds. And it changes in retirement, because you don't have things that you're usually replenishing it. And so you want to make sure that, it doesn't have any penalties if you get it out, that, it's not something that's subject to the market.
Okay. So speaking of the market, our investments. And with inflation, our investments aren't doing as well as they were.
And so that's a big challenge for a lot of people. The market's pulled back a little over 20%. That means you have 2 choices. Either you reduce your spending by 20%, which nobody wants to do.
No.
Or you've got to hope in the future that the market comes back. And the challenge there is if you go from 2000 to 2010, it took those 10 years to recover.
Right.
And those 10 years you were pulling money out of a negative situation, and that's not good.
Now, what about medical expenses and long-term care, and of course you have Medicare and the supplementals and
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges I think keeps people up. It's not so much the Medicare, that's pretty simple. The supplements change every year and the hassle of the annual enrollment, but really it's the long-term care, because that's the big expense that's out there. $90,000 plus in South Carolina.
And you've talked about that, how it's continued to go
up. Keeps on going up.
And then finally, and I don't like to think about this, I've been married now 40 years this year to Len, and I can't even imagine losing him. But I have to plan for it just in case. I mean, he's 73, so in the final chapter.
I think you got a lot left in that book. When you start talking about loss of a spouse, there's 2 things that people are really worried about. One is the relationship with the advisor and how that continues going forward. The second one is what happens to the finances. A lot of times pensions are involved. One of the Social Security, the lower of the 2 Social Security benefits goes away. And so you lose that part of the income. The second part is taxes. And people don't think about that. And personally, I just dealt with that with my mother.
Yes, I remember you telling me.
And she, all of a sudden, is like, why am I paying taxes now? Well, it's because she went from married filing jointly to single filing. And those tax brackets are more compressed, which means the income gets subject to higher taxes at a lower rate.
Right. And so, again, the 4 worries, the bottom line is we won't worry if we plan.
That's right. And that's the key to all of it. It doesn't mean you necessarily solve it all, but you have to discuss what's going on. You have to discuss how you're going to deal with each one of these things, and that helps.
Would you say most people don't plan?
Oh, 100%. I would agree.
Really?
The 2 big ones is everybody thinks everybody else is doing better than them.
I know, we talked about that.
And it's not the case. I mean, the reality is most people deal with the same challenges. They worry about running out of money. They worry about taxes. They worry about what's going to happen to the money and what impact it's going to have on their kids.
Kids or grandkids.
Yeah.
Right.
And so how do you not spoil them?
All right, so Retirement Resource Management, great resources on the website, which is again?
RetireRM.com.
RetireRM.com. Steve Gaito, our friend, and our financial planner. Great job, and we'll be right back.